We do believe that getting it being the oil dispute with Sudan, between South Sudan and Sudan, it's a complicated thing, let's just keep going. So we do believe getting it, the oil dispute with Sudan, resolved is very much in South Sudan's interests. Because a percentage of something is better than a percentage of nothing, especially in an interim agreement, while you explore other ways of getting your oil to market, which I strongly urge you to do. And if there's actually a video of this, and that's how she says it, which I strongly urge you to do. Yeah. Now we have to figure out how we can see through thick vegetation to find Joseph Kony. There's this technology that the Americans have developed over the last several years called drone technology. And that's the answer. And thus, we have the whole Kony 2012 thing again, and how the smart analysis of the fiasco was that it was a way to generate support for imperialist interests in Africa. You know, the whole competition with China over resources thing. That's something that you can expect from a Clinton presidency. She will blow up several countries in Africa. You're looking at occupation forces, the whole thing, right? So, the Bush years were about the Middle East. Obama's been trying to juggle things without really having a clear. He's been fighting with generals and the whole thing, right? Clinton will open the next phase, the next theater, which is Africa. And we will have quagmires, we'll have colonial wars, we'll have imperialist marches, much war in Africa under Clinton. And the whole Kony thing will be a big part of it. You can get ready for that. So it's early in the morning of the 24th. I was up late on the 23rd again. Another just not really very productive day yesterday. I guess I got the other room in there done. And I ate yesterday twice. I don't know, I can't even, I guess I spent most of the day reading stuff off the line, or off the page and transferring it. Meaning I guess it was a day lost to editing, again. It's gotten cold overnight again. Although I think he turned the heat on in the afternoon, which is a good sign. But I am still going to need to turn the heat on overnight, because it looks like he turned it off at night. Or turned it down anyways. I'm the opposite. I turn the heat on at night and off during the day, which is going to save you some money if you think about it for a minute. Or at least will here in Ontario, because of the way that the quote-unquote market, not really a market, rates are set. I'm going to start the day by watching a vlog from a few days ago, which is how I ended the day yesterday. I'm almost caught up. I wanted to have this set up so that I was cleaning in between, but I guess other things happened yesterday instead. By the time I wake up in the morning, by the time the sun comes up in the morning, I think I should have most of the place cleaned. I don't even know what the hell happened yesterday, to be honest with you. How it is that I lost the day, but it's a new day today, and I'll get back at it. I think it must have been just mostly editing. A little bit of procrastinating, I guess, but funny how you lose a day like that. Anyway, I'm not going to lose today. I got lots of stuff to do. This race versus class thing again. It's the issue of our time, right? It's not new. You can trace it back to the 60s. And I've pointed out a few times that it's older than that. It's the very idea that the United States was founded on. You get the white and black slaves fighting over race, so they forget about class and don't fight us being the upper class, because then we're fucked. But the way it's begun to manifest itself over the last few years, one could posit, since Occupy has exposed larger fracture points that the Democratic primary seems to have taken to a boil. The debate is not really about race versus class anymore, if it ever was at all. It's now just really all about class. And when I say that, what I mean is that it divides the left very cleanly into liberals and socialists. If you think that it's all about race, what you're arguing for is equality of opportunity. So is it any surprise that you're voting for Clinton? You're not really that keen on the unrealistic ideas and lofty ideals that are attached to the left in the first place. What you actually want is a system that gives everybody a fair opportunity to climb up the hierarchy. So is it about race? It's not. It's about class. And your insistence that it not be abolished because you want to climb your way up a few rungs and be in a position of greater status and wealth. If we were to abolish class, how could you oppress anyone? You have a fundamentally competitive, Calvinist, market-oriented, capitalist outlook on society. You just want to make sure the rules are fair, that nobody is starting off from a privileged position. You don't have any problem with people oppressing other people. You just think that if you had been given a more of a fair shot in life, you'd have a better ability to oppress people. You're a liberal. But if you think it's all about class, you're focused more on equality of outcome. You're probably a Sanders supporter. Or you're a sad Clinton supporter that's very confused. When you argue for equal opportunities to education, it's because education is a human right. Not because you think everybody should have the same starting points. You think everybody should have equal access to healthcare too, because it's a right. It's not something you should have to earn or something that hard work should provide you with advantages in. You don't assign much importance to climbing up any kind of hierarchy because you don't think there should even be a hierarchy to climb at all. Or you may be a little bit of an existential nihilist about it too, meaning that ultimately who gives a fuck if you're who gives a fuck if you're rich or poor, right? You have a fundamentally cooperative, egalitarian, distributive justice-based communitarian outlook on society, which should be designed so that people can enjoy their lives from cradle to grave, not spend almost all of it fighting for position in a chart. So you don't care about status or wealth or privilege or any of that kind of stuff. You just think life should be about enjoying yourself and all this stuff about evening out playing fields so that people have a better ability to climb up ladders. That has absolutely no appeal to you at all because you don't want to climb up the ladder in the first place. You just want to go hang out and smoke a joint and play guitar. It's a different concept of socialism. Maybe you don't want to just go hang out and smoke a joint and play guitar. Maybe you want to work together with the people around you, but you're still not particularly interested in becoming a boss or buying some status symbol, some gadget or some car or whatever. These things just are of no interest to you. I think you can connect these ideas to the different movements that have defined the last 5 years too. What was Occupy? Well, it was all about class, and is pretty strongly behind Sanders today. Black Lives Matter, on the other hand, was all about race. It seems to mostly be supporting Clinton. One is a fundamentally liberal movement with a fundamentally liberal outlook. The other is very much in the tradition of socialism. You see how that works out? I'm getting to be the armchair academic here. This is what we do. I understand that there is a need on the left to build broader movements that integrate different racial organizations. So the idea of breaking movements apart like this may be knee-jerked against by many. In fact, I probably make the same argument myself, but that is merely a restatement of my position. It's all about class. Now, is what you're saying any different? If you're telling me, stop being divisive, are you saying anything other than that it's really just all about class? And so what are you're just sticking your fingers in your ears and lying, right? The more pushback I hear on the point, the more I realize that it's coming from viewpoints that are thoroughly liberal and generally do not wish to abolish class at all. Yeah, so you and I, we demand that it be all about class in order to build broader, movements that integrate all kinds of different people and races and all kinds of things. But then when we go and reach out to these groups, they tell us that they want to maintain class hierarchies. They just want to make it easier to get in it. So is there a common cause there? Is your browbeating really rational? Maybe we need some sober reflection here. Just to add to that, and again, I've been over this over the last month or so. The phase is closing. This may very well be my last comment about the election in the United States. And I've been over this a few times. The nature of the electoral system in the United States has become very racialized. I think everybody realizes that. I have a hard time making sense of the idea that people are voting for Clinton or Sanders because they're black or white. But it was certainly a little bit more obvious in the previous cycle, where Obama, I believe he got something like 96% of the black vote. Meaning if you're black, you're a Democrat. I mean, it's almost taken for granted. But if you're black, are you a liberal? If you're black, are you a socialist? If you're black, are you a conservative? You could be anywhere in the spectrum. And in fact, it happens to be that the areas of the country that have the highest concentration of black people are also the most conservative areas. And so it makes sense to conclude that you're not getting a lot of socialists. And you're only arguably even getting a lot of liberals. You're really getting a lot of conservatives. So when you set up these racial-based movements, and you look at them and you say, geez, these racial-based movements don't really, agree with much that I have to say. It's facile and wrong to suggest that makes me some kind of a racist. Rather, what it does is it points out that being a minority doesn't automatically make you a leftist. And in fact, that a lot of these minority organizations are not on the left of the spectrum. And it doesn't make sense to work with. But they need to find ways to umbrella themselves as well, right? they can't just call up the Republican, the local Republican writing association and be like, you know what, we realize that we're pretty right wing, so we're gonna join your party. There's no welcome mat that's gonna open up there. So if they want to take part at all, they don't have a choice. And they're uncomfortable with it. We're uncomfortable with it. Everybody's uncomfortable. And it creates all kinds of racial tensions that are in truth not racial tensions. And if they were understood properly, shouldn't be approached as racial tensions, but as ideological tensions and class tensions. If I go back, way back a few years, the Occupy period, the period directly after it, I'm railing against critical race theory pretty hard. I'm saying this is anti-scientific, it doesn't describe the world we live in, etc., etc. I'm fleshing that out a little bit. I'm building an argument. I'm not the only person that's doing it. But I really think that this needs to be addressed from the left. The right can throw around their arguments if they want. They're oftentimes not very convincing. And I don't like aligning with. I mean, it's the same basic problem, right? I'm arguing that I have a hard time aligning with groups that take these positions because they're too right wing. And so what? I'm going to align with some right wing group too? That doesn't make any sense, right? It's really necessary that we get a good criticism from the left. That's shielded from, your typical, you know. See, the truth is a lot of the criticisms that you get from the right are racist, right? And it's because, they don't really understand the subtleties in the debate, right? Which is what I'm trying to get across here, is that there is a divide on the left. It makes a little bit more sense in countries that have traditions of a left. I'm not saying the United States doesn't have a tradition of a left, but it's disappeared, right? There's no memory of it. And in all functional ways, if a left is going to rebuild itself, it's going to have to rebuild itself from scratch. And if it's going to do that, it has to separate itself from liberals. The reason it's been lost is because it's been lost within liberalism. And it's not going anywhere unless it can separate itself from liberalism. And what you're seeing in this primary is exactly the debate that needs to continue. It needs to continue, and it needs to result in a division. And if people want to throw around, pejoratives, you want to call people racists, eventually they'll get tired of screaming nonsense, and they'll be silenced by lieu of their own ignorance, right? You can't shout lies forever. So it's people are gonna take the other side as well, right? People are gonna realize that they're liberals and go off on that side of things, and that's okay. We don't all have to agree, but I'm sick of being associated with liberalism. I'm sick of being lost within liberals. I'm sick of having to compromise with liberals. And I think that I'm reflecting a position that's widespread. Um, Again, it's almost a dream scenario for the media to have it set up like this, um, based on race like this. And there's reasons why we've ended up with so many right-wingers, so many right-wing minorities lost in the left, and they should be on the right because the right won't accept them. But there's got to be some way to, separate things, because the left isn't going anywhere if it has to constantly. I mean, if it can't even get its own proposals forward because it's being silenced by minorities on the right that are right wingers, right, and that were brought in for whatever reasons, or parked themselves there because they want to take part in the process. There has to be more there has to be more of a discerning process in what proposals are taken seriously, what ideas are worked towards. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with candidates like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama for forever. Because in order to win a primary in that party, you have to convince huge amounts of conservatives to vote for you. Again, who knows if this clicks, if people, realize this, that liberals and socialists are not the same thing. But see, there's a process leading up to this as well, right? A lot of people have tried to make the argument that liberals and socialists are the same thing. That socialists are liberals in a hurry, or whatever else. There have been movements in Canada for the Liberal and Socialist parties to merge into one. Similar things have happened in Britain. The Liberal Party doesn't really exist in Britain anymore, and the Socialist Party has been taken over by liberals, and etc. But they're not the same thing. They never have been the same thing. And actually, really the people that understand that the best are liberals in Canada. It's the only good arguments that I've ever seen come from liberals in Canada as to why, this doesn't make sense. And so maybe it should actually, come from both sides, right? I'm saying that the left needs to disassociate itself from the Democrats because it's never getting anywhere within the Democrats. Maybe the Democrats should tell the left to fuck off. And maybe, that's something else that might come out of this primary. I'm rambling, but I don't see where this goes. I know that the traditional thinking has always been about getting as many people together as you can. You want critical mass, and breaking through divisions and all these sorts of things. But when that tactic leads to you integrating groups that are fundamentally opposed to your core ideological positions, it questions whether that's a fruitful tactic or not, or whether it might make more sense to have walls built up to say, okay, a liberal is not a socialist. We don't want the same thing. We don't want the same societies. And maybe we should stop pretending that we do. See, look at that. You see that? Like, how do you deal with that? Coming out of your neck. It's entirely circular. You know, like, you want to, like, calculate that with the Fibonacci series. This is absurd. Thankfully, I do believe that is the last. Is this better if I? No. I think maybe just the camera might just be a little dirty there. That's better. Ridiculous. That is the last major one that I can see, but I have a lot of small ones. Hopefully they're gone soon. It's 3 o'clock and the day's gone already, again. I have to force myself to finish cleaning down here before I do any sleeping, so that's gotta happen. But I'm stuck. It's editing. I've been editing, and I'm just not moving forward. Soon. Well, I've just about run out of days, so it's soon. It's a little after 6, and I do think I'm done in here. It's actually not very warm out. It's only like 15 degrees, so get you back up. It's actually fairly low. It's just, well, I had it open for the pesticides because I did spray all over the corners here, all the baseboards and everything. And I'm in the process of doing the bathroom. I'm just gonna close this all out of here. This is probably the last thing I'm doing for the night. I know it's not exactly the most exciting thing. It's just while I was cleaning getting ready to clean the toilet, I barely grazed my arm. And I noticed that it would not have taken much more to slit my wrist. It was not like it was just like I grazed my arm, you know, like the kind of thing that one should really not need to concern themselves with. So I need to determine what's going on with that. I kind of know what's going on with that. It's that I'm dehydrated. I started noticing it was really bad. When was it? It was back in December. It was that week that I had nothing but chips. That was also the week that I turned the heat on. Or turned the heat on for good for the summer. If barely grazing my arm is enough to slit my wrists, I've got a problem. And I need to have that, I need to take immediate note of that. I have to get my fluids up. So, new rule. It's not the 24th, but 6 o'clock at night. I'm in the process of my spring cleaning, as at the end of the winter where I quit smoking. And the, this has got a, that was because I turned the fan off. The electrical in this place is fucked. I'm announcing no caffeine until my veins look normal. I don't know how long that's going to be, but that's a rule. I suppose it might make me a little bit tired for the next little bit. Quit smoking. I can quit coffee. I don't particularly want to stop drinking coffee. I do want to grow more skin or get my veins down or whatever the fuck it is that needs to be done to not be walking around worried that I'm gonna like a I'm fragile, okay? I'll acknowledge I'm fragile. I'll even, like, it's a part of my identity. I'm a skinny little thing, okay? But there's limits, you know. I can't be afraid that my blood vessels are gonna pop because I don't have enough skin on me. I need to deal with that, right? So the reason I'm stopping with the coffee is because it's a diuretic, and I think that that's a big part of it. It's kind of just step one sort of thing. I'll do that for a bit, and if I need to take further steps, like maybe I don't eat any salt, so I don't know, like, and everybody told me my blood pressure is crazy low. If anything, maybe I might need to increase my salt intake. Maybe reduce my potassium. I don't know. But I need to drink more water and drink less coffee. And I need to make that a priority until my skin gets to a point where I can't see my veins. It's not just that wrist, right? It's my other wrist. It's if I took the shirt off, you would see veins all over my, like my neck is creepy. Like it's all over my body kind of thing. And I know that I have a problem with dehydration. So let's address that. Number one. And I think that it's probably the lion's share of things. Water's good for your skin. There's other upsides to it. And coffee's bad for your teeth. So, if I stop drinking coffee for a week and my veins go down, I don't know. Maybe I'll keep with it. Maybe I'll change something else in my diet. Maybe I'll go back to pop. That's another possibility. I think that the Dr. Pepper was less of an insane diuretic than the coffee. I think I generally felt a little bit more healthy when I was drinking more pop. But because there's a lot of sugar in it, it also means I'm going to gain more weight in general, right? That's another part of it. Maybe drinking less coffee will slow my metabolism down a little bit, and I'll just be able to gain more weight, sort of thing. I would eat more if I was more hungry, right? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that I don't like being worried about, trivial day-to-day things being dangerous. That has to change. And so I'm off the coffee for a bit.